Hi, guys. Welcome to LEAH, the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism. I am Christy, and my co-host Mac will be showing up shortly. Happy Friday, everyone. I missed last show, and I missed all of you guys. I was in chat, but I know there are a lot of you that watch after we are live, since we're on Friday night, and pretty much only nerds stay home on Friday night, which I'm okay with that. And to all of you, I missed you guys as well. I hope everyone's doing well. I do read the messages. I do spend, I have it on my calendar for once a month to go and read messages. So if you would like to ask any questions and you are not a part of our Facebook group, which is under the same name, only it's LEAH, L-E-A-H, on Facebook, you can ask questions there as well. I will do my best to get to them. Now, I have a pretty big topic. Although it might not seem that important to a lot of you, I think that is important to the entire nation, actually. It is a topic about Florida, the state I've resided in since 1989, when I was 11 years old. Don't do the math, I'm old. Please don't do the math. Hi, Smitty. I wanted to add that. And let's see real quick. Logical Spot. Happy Friday to you as well. And Smitty, you're just so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that for me, Smitty. I was trying to share it to all of the sites, and you were wonderful for doing that. So on my topic, I bit off more than I could chew. I really wanted to add DeSantis versus Disney to this Florida topic. I couldn't. I just couldn't. There is so much that I need to fact check in order to bring it here and state it as I know something about it. It would just be me reading someone else's work, which is fine if I have time to fact check it. Tonight I will be reading from a couple different people, and I have had the time to make sure that there are multiple sources for each one that corroborate those factual facts. It's a thing, whatever. Okay, you guys, let's see. I was born in 1989, Smitty. For all of you who are watching later, I am talking to people in the chat. In case you don't know anything about the chat, get with the times, because it is a lot of fun. Hi, Jen. Mwah. Happy Friday. And we do have a good time. I can promise you it says fun as it can be. And I just got a message from my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Mac. He will be joining us in a minute. Let's tell him I have started and my topic is first, comma. So when you join, you'll get to hear. And I hit send. Don't you love talk to text? That is awesome. Sometimes though, Google can't grammar. Let me promise you that. Hi, Mac, my beautiful, wonderful, beautiful co-host.
Ah, hello.
How are you?
Good. We were just getting back from a date night out of town, and we were running late. Also, my computer's been shutting down like on its own. Said it 3 times. So I had
AI is taking over the world. I knew it. Well, it's good that my topic was first, so perfect. You are free to prepare yours. I do want to say I do have a vodka and pineapple.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
Listen, to cover Florida, I needed to be a little lubricated. Yeah. It's not living here in my everyday, day-to-day life. I don't come across, there's no T in that word, across many people who share the ideology of DeSantis. However, I live in Tampa City proper, and if you look at a map of Florida, a political map of Florida, it is a very blue area. So that doesn't mean that this legislation, this fascist legislation, doesn't affect us. And that I do hear about often. So not to mention anyone's names or put anyone out there, we do have a friend who his girlfriend, lover, they're not together. Took a pregnancy test, and that is positive. Went to the doctor, and is about 10 and a half to 12 weeks. There's nothing she can do. They're not together. This is not in the plan. They literally have to borrow money. They're fortunate. They're very fortunate to have family and friends to be able to borrow money to do what they need to do. Many people aren't. And there are hotlines. I can put them underneath this video after we are done and it's published on YouTube. I will go and post those 800 numbers for people who are in this nation. I don't care what state you're in. If you are unable to get that because of laws, there are groups, nonprofits, who will help you with funding, travel, hotel stay, and medical. We can do this together. Unfortunately, that's where we're fucking at right now. So, do you want to say anything before I go into Florida?
No, I'm just excited to hear about Florida. I'm gonna have questions as we go.
Okay, definitely. I love you always go like this. I try to tell myself to raise my hand, but I just blurt out. I try though. I do try. Afterwards, I'm like, God, you're so rude, Christy.
I'm just a better trained puppy than you are.
Puppy, I scratch you behind your ears and your little. It does, guys. In person. We've done this. Okay, we didn't really do that, but it's still funny. Okay, so we're going to start with some context, and this is a really, really, of course, all links will be posted for you guys. Actually, one real quick before I start, I want to make sure nobody has said anything. Okay, that's just important to make sure nobody needed me before I started. Let's see. Great name, Nacha. Didn't even mention our Lord and Savior, Nacha Witness. None of this would be possible without our personal Savior, our Lord, Nacha Witness. So great title, by the way, and I couldn't agree more.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
The title of governor, actually, don't I have eyeballs? I do. That'll probably help me if I can not have to struggle. Struggle is real. All right. The title of, go ahead. The struggle is real. Amen. All right. Fist bump. The title of Governor Ron DeSantis' book, which he is zealously promoting, don't even get me started on his book, across the nation, is less important than the subtitle. The Courage to be Free. That's the title. Is a forgettable title shared by a volume of actor and gun rights activist Charleston Heston, the guy who, quote, says, "You can take it from my cold dead hands." That guy. Yeah, that's who he's. But the subtitle, Florida's Blueprint for America's Revival, unlocks DeSantis's national ambitions. The word revival after the word America is unsettling to me anyway. It just is. It immediately makes me think of religious revival because that's what it's meant for. So, while former U.S. President Donald Trump labors under the frayed slogan of, quote, "Make America Great Again," DeSantis is building a case to, quote, "Make America Florida," a phrase that appears on caps and flags and t-shirts and merchandise, bumper stickers, you name it, here in this state that I reside in. The governor argues that he has made glorious summer in the Sunshine State. If and when he announces a run for president in 2024, he will claim that he can repeat the formula in state after state across the United States. Florida, his theory goes, is an incubator of conservative ideas that work. And can I just state, for a fact, he cannot legally announce that he's running for president. Our state, the state of Florida, has laws. If you are a governor, a sitting governor, you have to resign in order to even announce that you are running for president. Our governor, Ron DeSantis, is currently with a team of lawyers trying to carve out that legislation for him, which will fuck it up for everyone else in the future. That is a great law. I think that no one should be able to run. You're not focusing on what you need to focus on if you're doing something else. I can name plenty of examples. One right now, the DA in this other state is taking nursing classes and refuses to leave. Like, that has nothing to do with this story. I'm just saying that's not okay for her constituents. Imagine running. Nursing school is hard. Running for president while trying to govern an entire state of millions of people is unacceptable. So whenever people say he's going to announce, just know that you have the law on your side as of right now. Ron DeSantis dangles a carrot to Republicans who, wary of Trump's losing streaks, are seeking a savior. DeSantis writes that when he was elected in 2018, there were nearly 300,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans in Florida. And by October 2022, there were more than 300,000 more registered Republicans than Democrats. That is a whole other story. If people have questions, go ahead and ask. I'm not going to cover it tonight. It's too much.
Say the numbers again for me.
Okay, so in 2018, when he was elected, there were nearly 300,000 more Democrats who were registered than Republicans in Florida. By October 2022, so that's from 2018 to 2022, then in 2022, in October, there were more than 300,000 more registered Republicans than Democrats. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 4.5 years. That is a whole story of its own. What Florida has done is establish a blueprint for governance that has produced tangible results while serving as a rebuke to the entrenched elites who have driven our nation into the ground, end quote. DeSantis writes in the Courage to Be Free, his book that he somehow had time to write. He didn't write it. Like I said, that's a whole nother story. There's going to be like post-it notes of whole different other stories. Okay. Just like Trump wrote his book. We'll put it like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Blah. All right. But the governor's critics question whether his fixation on culture wars, quote, Florida is where woke goes to die, is quite as popular as it seems. They also contend that with numerous climatic, economic, and social upheavals, Florida is not quite the paradise of free that DeSantis likes to portray. Quote, what it is a blueprint for people who want to abuse their power in order to target people who disagree with them politically, end quote, said Maxwell Frost. I love you, Maxwell Frost, the youngest person to ever join the Congress. He's a brilliant human. I can't wait to see what he does. That doesn't mean he won't let me down or disappoint me. But as of right now, brother, I am with you. The youngest member of Congress who represents a Florida district that's what we've seen from someone like DeSantis, he says. Now, this Frost, Maxwell Frost, was part of the Parkland kids. This is where he came from. This is what he's grown up. This generation of children know that if they are killed, most likely it will be from a gun. They know this. They're not okay with it, and they are very smart, and they're not afraid to be active. I love these kids.
Yeah.
Okay. What we're exporting out of Florida is fascism, he says. I mean, a spade, kid. I love it. For him to sit there and say, oh yeah, my bill on banning trans kids from talking about who they are is now equated to a top education system. It's just a bunch of bullshit, to be honest. Most Floridians hopefully will see through this. DeSantis, age 44, as governor of the third most populous state in the United States, has imposed limits on how race and sexuality can be taught in public schools, forcing many teachers to remove books from their libraries. And you guys can go on YouTube or Google Florida school libraries and look. They've put cardboard boxes over them. They've just removed all of them. It's literally like looking back at black and white photos from 1930, 32, and 33 in Germany. And I won't say any names. So he has also, yeah, no, it is. It is. This book banning, book burning, all this is where it comes from. It is fascist by definition. And you know, you see them cringe when they're called that because they do not have a rebuttal. So he has also banned, transgender girls from school sports, redrawn the state's political maps to favor Republicans. That's why there are so many more. That's just a part of that little post-it note story over there. To redraw the maps. Okay, listen, when he redrew those maps, little side note, the Supreme Court of Florida said, no, that's unacceptable. It's illegal. He did it anyway. He said, fuck off. This is what I'm doing. That's what we're dealing with here.
That's pretty much what he's done his whole career, though.
Yes, it is. It is. Think about Guantanamo Bay, and we can get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have our Lord and Savior. The concept of book burning is way older than World War II. Think Dark Ages. You're 100% correct. And when I think of that, I also think, because my mind goes to brainy stuff, how long it took to create those books in the Dark Ages. There are no printing presses. How dare you burn those?
Yeah.
Well, it gives us a great idea of what happens when they win at destroying knowledge. Yes, knowledge is power. Knowledge is powerful. And to take that power away takes the power away from people. So that's why, wait, who was it? I just can't imagine. I can't think of the name. I love the poorly educated. God, it was somebody important. Just kidding. Yeah, that's why they love the poorly educated. Because if you can get humans to believe that a magic guy lives in the sky, if you can get people to believe that maybe it doesn't happen now, but a virgin did get pregnant before, if you can get people to believe that water can be turned into wine, that all these things can happen, it's not that much harder to get them to believe many other things. And that's really sad. And that's the history that we know. Yes, not only did humanity lose hundreds of years of progress because of people suppressing knowledge from the masses. Think about the great library of Alexander, the Alexander Library from ancient times. Right, it just, who knows how far, I think about those things often, but I also am a pothead, so that's my fault, but that is a choice, so it's totally my fault. Okay, back to the story. Okay, so not only did he redraw the political maps to favor Republicans, attacked Disney World and other businesses that disagree with his ideology. In the paperwork from the court of those proceedings with Disney, he calls, I'm not going to give into or argue with or take anything from a woke company from LA. Like, that's how he sees them. It doesn't matter that Disney has been in Florida for literally over half a century. It doesn't matter to him. Okay, and if you disagree with his ideology, you are the enemy, and it's that simple in his mind. He has also cracked down on any Black Lives Matter protests. I won't get into that legislation that's been passed here, but under DeSantis, it is legal to run over protesters if they are in the road. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. That's
wait, that's yeah, that's not it.
Yeah. Then there was the coronavirus pandemic. I love it says there was. We're still dealing with anywhere from 200 to 500 deaths a week. So the corona pandemic that we're dealing with, the governor mostly followed guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention during the early months, as most people did because they were terrified. Closing Florida beaches, bars, and schools. But then he pivoted in early 2021. He saw that niche with all the people protesting. Yes, he did. When he pivoted in early 2021, reopening schools before any other states and banning, not just saying you don't have to wear, but banning face masks and vaccine mandates in businesses and government in the state of Florida, nothing I'm proud of. When the media questioned this approach, because Florida has a significant higher number of deaths, considering a lot of elderly people moved to Florida to retire, he hit back pugnaciously, great word, right? Pugnaciously, to the delight of a ignorant base that revels in owning the libs. And, honestly, that's what it seems to be mainly about. DeSantis claimed vindication last year when he smashed fundraising records and won re-election by nearly 20 percentage points. Those are all facts. Remember, he also gerrymandered the shit out of the state. And nearly 20 percentage points is nothing to shake a stick at unless it was done, sleazily. And this used to be a swing state. Florida has historically been known as a purple swing state. They voted for Obama, they voted for Trump, they can go back and forth, but the way that the districts are set up right now, this state will never, ever be purple again because of the way that has been gerrymandered. Albeit against a weak candidate from a disorganized Democratic Party. So yes and no. I think that nobody would have a chance with the way that the system is set up, right? It doesn't matter how amazing they were, unless every single Floridian who is legal to vote got off their goddamn ass and went and voted. And that's just never going to happen. We're known as the democracy on this planet that has the least amount of participation. It is so sad. It's pathetic. When 43% on a good year participate.
Right.
That's pathetic. Those people who don't vote complain. And I have no time for it. I have no time for it.
Republicans have two modes of attack when it comes to democracy. One is rail against democracy, and their fail-safe is cheat.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is. I don't want to have dry lips here.
So right now they're at cheat. They have been since 2000.
Yes, and we know for a fact that
Gore won.
Bush did not win. Did not win this state that I'm residing in now. And we also know for a fact that people surrounded those, voting areas and were terrifying people because they did not want it counted. A mini tiny little taste of January 6th on these voting areas when Bush v. Gore happened here in Florida. They stopped the counting because if they continued counting, Bush wouldn't have won. Who was our governor? Oh, wait, it was President Bush's family member? Jeb Bush. Oh, Nepo is happening everywhere. So, okay, so we were the 20 percentage points. Republicans saw hope that DeSantis has cracked the code for a party that has lost the popular vote in 6 of the last 7 presidential elections. The party now enjoys a super majority here in my state of Florida, the Florida state legislature, and is pushing issues such as telling teachers which pronouns they can and cannot use for students, making it illegal for children to come out at school and the teachers not inform the parents, even though school in a lot of cases is a safer environment for the children to come out in, whether they are 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, any of those ages. Some of them can't come out at home because then they will be homeless or sent to conversion camp or abused. Like, it's insane what is happening here. The party, I'm sorry?
The conversion camp should absolutely be illegal.
Yeah, that should be that's a whole show by itself.
They're just low-key torture.
Those poor humans that have been subject to this is a very dark, we look at the schools where all the Native American children, all the indigenous children had to be taken away from and go to. We look back at that as just a dark, disgusting, despicable part of our history. And that is exactly how we're going to look at these conversion therapy places. It's just disgusting. So we now have a Republican supermajority. All my political junkies out there know that a supermajority is not a good thing when it is leaning fascists. The legislature, like I said, is telling teachers what pronouns they can use. Making guns more available is not even how I would put it. In the state of Florida, you can open carry without getting a permit now. That is the law. Everybody can carry. You can hide, carry, secure. It doesn't matter.
When did that happen?
Within the last couple weeks.
Okay, that's why I didn't know about it.
Yep. Okay. There have been people outside protesting, and nobody. Protesting that to not even have a permit. To not, anyone can just hide their gun on them. Yes, it's terrible. Keeping immigrants who are in the country illegally out of the state of Florida, period, and criminalizing drag shows. That's the governing this governor likes to do. Not making Floridians' lives better, but going after marginalized groups and making the #1 killer of children under the age of 18 more available and legally accessible for people to carry, even, hidden on them. So that's what's happening here. Republicans argue that DeSantis's agenda explains why Florida ranks #1 in the nation for net immigration. About 319,000 people moved here last year, according to an analyst of census data by the National Association of Realtors, while California lost the most residents, losing 343,000 who had departed California, sorry. Christian Ziegler, a chairman of the Florida Republican Party, says this: "You're seeing people leave other states that have completely opposite ideology and political positions and policy positions. California, New York, everyone's leaving those states and everyone's flocking to our state. That validates the claim Florida is a working model. If it was a cell phone, it would be the Apple iPhone. Everyone wants it, everyone's buying it, and everyone's gravitating towards it. Do you see? This isn't an Apple, by the way. Part of the attraction, Ziegler claims, to DeSantis's pro-freedom approach to the pandemic, which allowed businesses and tourism to bounce back more quickly, than elsewhere across the country, and his support for what Republicans frame as parents' rights here in Florida. Quote, I can tell you how many parents have moved here from other states because they want their kids in school not shut down, not to have masks forced on their children, not to have a vaccine forced on them, he says. Critics of DeSantis and logical people present a very different version, noting that Florida has long been a magnet because of its sunny weather and lack of state income tax. The pandemic and its rise of remote working made it especially attractive to people fleeing expensive big cities such as New York and California. The trend may be temporary. Latest census data shows that Manhattan's population actually grew last year. That's what I want to say to that asshole. Speaking from Sarasota, Sarasota is about an hour and a half from here, depending on traffic. It's a great place to launch your boat out of. I'm just saying that. So speaking from Sarasota, Ziegler also defended DeSantis's controversial policies on the teaching of U.S. racial history. That's how he says it. It's called Black history, you fucking moron. So anyway, from my standpoint, I can tell you we learned about the injustices of slavery. We learned about the heroic efforts of Harriet Tubman, of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said, that is far different than the critical race theory where they're trying to point out that everyone in society is oppressed or an oppressor, or that just the color of your skin is going to make you biased and hateful. That is not what critical race theory is. And CRT is not taught in any public schools, period. It is a graduate level class that it is an elective. No one has to take it. It is for serious lawyers going into civil rights and being a civil rights lawyer. This whole thing is a boogeyman. It makes me so mad.
Inexcusable.
Yeah,
right? Even offer the class is racist against white people.
Right, and critical theory doesn't teach that everyone's an oppressor or oppressed. It at all. It teaches that the system has people writing the legislation, and those people writing the legislation are fallible. Therefore, their biases are inherently written into the system, into the legislation, and is something we need to look out for. We need to be aware of. That simple. Go for it.
It's not just inherently, it's obvious.
You made me spit out my drink. Yeah, it's not just inherently, it's obvious. Amen, brothers.
I mean, like if you just look at their positions, it's kind of like what you get when you read the Federalist Papers, right? And the letters that were passed back and forth between our founding fathers. This is like, all right, you can really get a picture of what the Constitution was supposed to mean to them if you read the conversations that were going on at the time.
Right. They're very important. That's context. They're always like, that's out of context. Okay. Well, so is your entire premise, because the letters are very important to the context of why these laws were written. Is you're 100%. Those letters are so fascinating too. Yes, Mac.
The only real American letters I care about are the U.S. and A letters.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's a good one. I don't need to know no history. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Okay. So, talking about, that it's biased and hateful, CRT and blah, 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 this idiot that was just talking. This is a misrepresentation of critical race theory, which examines the way in which racism was embedded into American law and other modern institutions. Maintaining the dominance of white people. It is not typically taught in any grade undergraduate, a graduate school. So you finish your 4 years of college and now you can opt into taking this. And I would love to have all of that information. Just
I'm sorry,
it shouldn't be freely given.
I was listening to you really closely. I just don't understand why they're forcing this on everyone, especially children.
That's the mainstream media model right there. Right
Mhm.
there. La, 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 la. I can't believe they're making 4-year-olds learn this. Yes. So progressives dispute the assertion that Ron DeSantis' focus on hot button culture war issues is working. He's selling a blueprint for hate and bigotry, said Brandon Wolf, who is the press secretary of the LGBTQ plus rights organization Equality Florida, and a survivor of the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2016. Ron DeSantis is being honest about one thing, and that is that he is trying to sell the snake oil of his authoritarian tactics in Florida to the rest of the country. Wolf pointed out that beneath the veneer of prosperity that the governor projects, there are plenty of shadows in this state. A haven for retirees, Florida has the worst long-term care for elderly people among all 50 states. The worst. And that's according to the American Association of Retired Persons. It is among 10 states that have refused to expand Medicaid, a public health insurance program for people with low income under the Affordable Care Act. The federal government allocates this money per every person that would need it to every state. And there are 10 states, I reside in one, Florida, who says we don't need that free money for our citizens because those are the poor people and we don't care about them. I don't know how else to look at it. It's there. It's going to stay there. It's not going to, all they have to do is say, okay. And then so many people in this area that I live in and many more could have even just a little bit better of a lived life. And that is not acceptable to these fascist asshats. So they refused to expand Medicaid. And Florida ranks 16th, 1/6, the worst for healthcare among the 50 states, says the Commonwealth Fund, a grant-making foundation that supports independent healthcare research. Meanwhile, the cost of living here in Florida is spiraling. Norada Real Estate Investments found that Florida home values have risen by 80% over the past 4.5 to 5 years. The cost of home insurance is rising fast as the market struggles to deal with stronger hurricanes and more intense rainstorms due to climate crisis. Now, I do want to state as a little caveat to that, there are so many, a plethora of districts, areas, area codes in this state that one cannot even purchase home insurance. It's not, they're like, no, I'm not happening. So you can find your dream home and buy it, and there is not an insurance company on this planet that will insure your home.
I didn't know that was something.
Yes, it's an epidemic here. And so, and there are areas where they're like, which means that in the next 5 to 10 years, those areas also will not be able to get insurance. And so those areas that probably won't get insurance in 5 to 10 years, those areas in particular are seeing insurance prices that are the same price as their mortgage each month or higher, because they know that if shit goes down and there's a big hurricane coming, they're going to have to replace all of this stuff. It's a given. Insurance companies do not get into it because they want to help, because they want to make sure that you are protected. Insurance companies go into it saying, all of these people are going to give me money and I'm only going to help these 3 ones or 4 or 5 areas. They go into it to make money. The bottom line is the only reason to become an insurance company. So that is a huge problem here in Florida. The market does struggle with insurance, and it's a lot. I think Florida's like this. So coast, 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 coast. there's a lot of issues with getting insurance in those areas. Leaning into the culture war issues was successful for Ron DeSantis, and the challenge that I pose to that is ask any everyday Floridian, what are the top 5 things keeping them up at night? I guarantee you they're not going to say someone in a wig reading red fish, blue fish, one fish, two fish at a library. The question of has what was that?
It's a good book, though.
It is a fantastic.
Love it.
It's my favorite Dr. Seuss book, bar none. I almost
Green
know
eggs
it.
in hand. Green eggs in hand.
I think one fish, two fish blows it out of the water. It's just so much fun. I love reading it. Actually, tell your kids that that's the next book on our reading thing is going to be one fish, two fish, because I have so much fun reading it. Okay. The question of has Florida been wildly successful is best posed to people who are kept up at night by the cost of housing, the potential for dangerous storms. He added, you just ask them if Florida feels like the most successful and freest state in the nation. Education is another such example. While DeSantis has created political theater around pandemic measures and racial and sexual identity, the state faces a severe shortage of teachers. And when I say that, I that's not even how severe it is. We are severely lacking teachers. They are fleeing the state as anyone who wanted to be a teacher, because it's not because they go into it for the money. We're talking about people who really want to teach the next generations. They do not want a fascist overlord. So they took their skills out of the state. And we're talking about doctors and nurses and teachers are fleeing Florida. So the political theater around pandemic measures is creating a severe shortage of teachers in its long underfunded public schools. Florida, my beloved state, is ranked 49th in the country for average teacher pay in 2020, according to the National Education Association. Yes, Mac?
Is Texas 50?
Right? I should definitely Google that. That's so sad. I'm sorry.
That or it's like fucking Delaware.
That or Mississippi or Alabama. Yeah.
They can't be 50th if they don't pay their teachers.
Poor teachers. All right. Tim Canova, a law professor at Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, a former congressional candidate, said, quote, teachers are underpaid, understaffed. The curriculums are dictated centrally on down. Top to bottom dictation is what's happening, whether it's Common Core federal standards or from the state in Tallahassee. It's a miserable job for teachers here in Florida. They don't have much autonomy. They've got big class sizes, more students than they know how to deal with. They don't get paid much. They've got to constantly fill out reports about their teaching. It's a problem that's way beyond Florida, but the schools in Florida have been weak for so long. It's just the way that it's expected to be. Research by Data for Progress, a progressive polling firm and advocacy group, also raises questions about the viability of DeSantis's hard right policies beyond Florida's borders, with independent voters across the country largely siding with Democrats on almost every single culture war issue. A survey of 1,252 likely voters nationally from 17 to 20 March found that 41% support and 50% oppose mandating K through 12 libraries to immediately remove and review books flagged as inappropriate. 37 support and 47 oppose eliminated college diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. 39% support and 46% oppose banning college majors and minors in critical race theory. Are you just gonna ban elective classes? It's insane. Daniel Dorsroth, interim executive director of Data for Progress, said, quote, most Americans might agree that they like Florida's weather. They certainly don't like policies being put forward by Governor DeSantis and Florida lawmakers, especially on some of these culture war issues that have been dominating, especially on right-wing news media. In terms of DeSantis positioning himself for a potential presidential run in 2024, which seems all but certain at this point, these extreme policies are going to alienate a lot of voters right off the bat. He might be popular in Florida, but he'll never win nationally. Women in particular were one of the groups most opposed to many of these policies. Last year's midterm election results appear to support this view, as far-right Republicans underperformed among female voters, in part because of their extreme positions on issues such as abortion after the Supreme Court's decision to take Roe v. Wade away. It's just not a guarantee in our Constitution. DeSantis is expected to sign a 6-week abortion ban. Since it has happened, he did it with a closed room with no press. And if you watch the video, you guys can find it on YouTube. There's all women around him. And he literally goes to write it and he goes, oh, you guys can clap now. And they all clap and he shows, like, it's it's not organic. It's just gross, you know? Ugh. So with the 6-week abortion ban, most women do not know they're pregnant to between 5 and 12 weeks. That is the average. And most women know anywhere between, like, out of that, the higher percentage is between 8 and 12. When you're like, definitely. 6, that's like, I missed a period. I'll wait like 4 or 5 days to see if it comes. Oh, too late. Can't get it. That's what that is. Oh, so even though polls show that a majority of Floridians oppose an abortion ban, he doesn't care. DeSantis critic Rick Wilson, a 5th-generation Floridian and Republican strategist, has been involved in more than 30 political campaigns in the state of Florida. And he's co-founded the Lincoln Project. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the hot takes they've done, some of the political ads they've done against Trump. So this is one of the co-founders of the Lincoln Project, an anti-Trump group based in the state capital, Tallahassee. Wilson is skeptical of the notion that Florida could be the laboratory of ideas for a Republican revival. Recalling Texas Governor Rick Perry's failed presidential campaign, he said, Perry came out and said, quote, excuse me, I did all these conservative things. I'm the champion. I could make Washington work like Texas. That was his biggest line, and it fell flatter than a pancake. That was also Jeb Bush's argument. Quote, I was Florida's most conservative governor. I alone can accomplish all these amazing conservative reforms, end quote. How did that work? Far from a blueprint for America, Wilson describes Florida as, quote, the petri dish of bad ideas, end quote. This is a Republican, guys. He added, quote, there is a slowly emerging theme among some Floridian conservatives I've been talking to of. I wish he'd do more about tax cuts and less about book banning and less about and talk more about smaller governments and less about using governments to punish people. In MAGA world, that authoritarian stuff sells pretty well, as we all know. But again, you can't out Trump. That authoritarian streak alarms activists who say DeSantis and his allies have pushed voter suppression bills to marginalize people of color, gay people, any LGBT community, any of that, disabled people. Like, he just doesn't give a fuck. His Florida model, they argue, would pose a fundamental threat to civil rights as we know it if exported anywhere else. Jasmine Burney Clark, founder of Equal Ground, a Black-led civil engagement organization, said, "It is not a state where people of color, particularly Black people, who have been on the other end as targets of his attacks, are feeling like this is a model for success, a model for freedom, or a model for liberation. If you are invested in a world that is seated in white supremacy, is seated in hate and racist policies, then it is absolutely the perfect blueprint for you." I hope you appreciated this, because let me tell you, that's just this much of the DeSantis iceberg. I'm sure you guys know he also made it a big thing about fraud and voter fraud, and went after 20 people, made it a big deal. It was on TV all over here of these people, knock, 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 hello, we have to arrest you. The cops are uncertain, like, this sucks, it's about voting, I'm sorry. And out of this many people that he arrested for this, all but 2 were Black. Let me tell you guys, those people, they have been, it's been dismissed. They've gone before a judge with all the evidence, and there were, I think, 2 out of all of them that it didn't get dismissed. Something else happened. However, they don't exist anymore because it was political. It wasn't that these people did anything wrong. They had to go to jail, and then they had to. We're not talking about wealthy people. If one of us, Stacey or I, had to go to jail and pay $1,000 bond, that's gonna fuck us up for a while. And that's the people who he went after. So it's just retribution, punishment. He is disgusting, and I cannot wait to vote him out. There's so much more about him. I did want to add, in Guantanamo Bay, he was brought in from the Navy. His job was to earn the trust of these prisoners. It's hard to understand you.
As a human rights lawyer.
Yes, thank you. Exact, blah, blah. Talk about Orwellian. And by this, earn their trust enough to find out things that they're scared of, to find out things that they fear. And then after they were able to open up and talk to him, see him on a regular basis with nothing bad that happened, those things they shared with him confidentially as a civil rights lawyer were used to torture them. And we know this because men who were in prison there have called him out. They literally felt like they were going to throw up when they all of a sudden see this guy on TV who's running in Florida. That's the guy. Immediately, how do you forget the guy? Especially, and I'm not going to go into all of their stories. You can find them readily. They're very easy. Of me being tortured. This one guy says, of me being tortured, of being force-fed. And I look through the door where there's a window, and there's this guy who I had shared these things that is now being used to torture me, smiling at me. That's who's the governor of the state I live in. There should be a litmus test. There should be a litmus test. There should be some sort of torture is your out. Like, I don't.
Ought to be. I mean, you usually have to wait until you have some kind of political power to be
right.
a worker.
To be a worker. He came in already committing what? Yeah, Trump. That's what Trump had to be. Trump had to become the president of the United States before he became a war criminal. Yeah, not Ron DeSantis. He said, hold on, hold my beer, I'm coming. Oh, and then a fun thing that, of course, our Lord and Savior already knows, not to witness, in Australia, in the future, already knows this information. Ron DeSantis, through his college years, when he wanted to take a girl out that he was interested in, he would ask them if they wanted to go get thigh food, like between your thighs, thick thighs. I like thick thighs. So thigh food. And if that girl corrected him with, no, I think you're saying it wrong, it's Thai food. Yeah, he would just walk. He didn't want anything to do with a woman that would have the audacity of correcting him, even if he's wrong, demonstrably wrong. He would not date a girl who would correct him. That's who's the governor of the state I reside in right now. I know I'm smiling and giggling because I don't know how else to deal with it. It's really bad. Greg Abbott in Texas, fuck you too. How about you and Ron DeSantis can have each other in Guantanamo? And that's my Florida story.
Why don't you guys just eat your thigh leftovers?
Thai food. Stay politically active. Local is so important. It's so important. And if anyone needs help, even if it's an area that I do not reside in, never even heard of, contact me and we'll figure it out. We'll figure out how locally you can make a difference. Even if you're like, I don't even want to vote for president. I can't. It's so, go vote and vote everything down. And then for me, you're already there. Go ahead and vote the one that's less dangerous at the top. I know that's not what you're there for. It's so important. And for those who say your vote doesn't matter, contraire mon frere, if it didn't, gerrymandering wouldn't be a thing. Voter suppression wouldn't be a thing. As of right now, Republicans want to take the age of 18 for voting and make it 21. Some want to make it 25 because they are terrified of Generation Z, and they should be. These are very informed, very diverse, very beautiful souls, and I'm super fan of Gen Z, super fan. So,
oh yes,
from Florida, I will keep resisting. Yes.
All right.
I need a cape that's underneath is like all stars. It looks like the sky, and then on the back says Leah with this in the middle. I wish I knew how to sew because I would wear the shit out of the cape.
Right,
I'll stand in front of a fan, just let it billow behind me. All right.
Okay, well, we can get moving on to the next topic, Nacha. I did want to just add on there. We'll use this as a segue. So one of the main things that Florida is attacking, Florida as in Ron DeSantis.
Yes.
Florida man. Is education. And when you attack education, you attack how people view the world. And that's why I think we all need to really be a lot more on board about when a state or a group of people want to ban a college class or from public view, we all really need to jump on it and be against it. It's incredibly important.
Solidarity.
Thank you.
Yes, solidarity.
Because of the two reasons. One, even if you don't agree with an idea, it is best to understand it. At least then you know why you disagree with it. And two, if it's a disgusting idea, well, bad ideas grow in the dark. If you've ever heard that being in an echo chamber is bad, don't force people into echo chambers. It ends bad. We should be able to argue about our ideas out in the open, even the most disgusting ones, right? It's kind of like how we want our congressmen and women to vote for the things they do and they don't actually do want, like Medicare for all. It won't even be brought to a floor, right? But if it was, then we would see a lot of people who we didn't think would actually vote for it, but they sucked it up and did it. And then we'd see a lot of people that we probably would have said, oh, that'd probably be a given, who we now see are very bought out. Right? It is best to know who your enemies are. Have them brought to the light. And then we don't need to use violence on our enemies. We just need to use common sense and philosophical conversation to win arguments, right? We want to win arguments, win ideas, and not have people suppress ideas. Right? That's what the First Amendment's all about. Stop violence. You shouldn't be trying to stop ideas. Okay. One of the things that really made me think of with the education is like CRT, when you don't understand the marginalized groups in your nation are or have been, it really becomes difficult for you to see in your own home country who the villains are.
Yeah.
Because it tends to be villains. Like in our case, Christy, my case is the U.S. government is when it comes to um, Black rights, right? And not just Blacks, but any race who's been marginalized.
Yeah, any minority group that can be crushed.
Yeah, not just
that can be crushed by a single legislative law. It is criminal and disgusting, and that's what we see all the time.
Yeah, and not just that. I mean, but yes, that connected to this is the indigenous peoples of this land,
yes.
right? If we can just bury what we did to get this land and the laws that brought us to today, then we don't really understand griefs, to say the least. And eventually, when you continue this uneducation, this miseducation, this lack of education, you forget your history, and then you get what Republicans want, which when they talk about more democracy in the workplace or in government, people don't have time for that. Right? But they don't want you to have time for that. You have money to make and noses to stick in the sand. So when you have that, you can very easily get to the point where we've always been at war with East Asia. Right? It reminds me of Animal Farm. It's a long way of me saying
what a great book. Oh, I mean, as a kid, I liked it. As a teenager, it was homework. I liked it, but it was homework. As an adult, fucking profound.
Yes. It's if you haven't read
it's banned here in Florida. By the way, it's banned here in Florida.
It is banned in Florida? God damn it.
So is The Handmaid's Tale and so many other. How to Kill a Mockingbird.
You ban it. You ban the Mockingbird.
What if they want to do everything they're not allowed to? So keep it up, Florida.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So, look, when you get to a certain point, I don't want to say it is the goal of these people making the legislation, but to some point, to some extent, it must be. Because when you take enough democracy away from the people, you are inherently moving towards them not just being drones, right? You don't want them to be active in their own world. You just kind of want them to be capitalistic drones. And capitalistic drones very easily can turn into nationalistic drones. And I feel like I don't want to misconstrue the situation. This is my segue.
Right. Okay.
Into Ukraine and Russia. And if you didn't know already, I feel like you should. If not, stop there. Iraq. The Kremlin was attacked by Ukraine with a drone. They were trying to take out the Kremlin or Putin. And turns out he wasn't there. This is a very big escalation of this war in Ukraine and Russia. And it's obvious, right? I feel like there's not so much to report on, but there is a lot to talk about. I haven't heard any updates on this yet, like what Putin's going to do or where he was. I haven't heard.
He's now saying that it was America's involved with it.
Oh, okay, that's great. See, so that's cool. But and I don't know what everyone else is going to say to my thought on this. Look, when it comes to conflict, when it comes to violence, sometimes I have a different idea than a lot of people on the left or the right. It's just like Mac's initial thought for January 6th when someone told me that the Capitol was under attack is I laughed. I said, of course it is.
Right.
What did they think was going to happen? Like, and I didn't even know who was attacking it. I was like, everyone's pissed off. Everyone's mad. Like,
yep.
Cool, great. Like, not really great, but I'm just like, it just sounds like the punchline to the end of the joke to me. And at this point, there's a Kremlin, okay? And again, I'm really interested to hear what Christy has to say about this. Maybe this is a no-brainer, or maybe this is unreasonable. I don't know. But my thought is, as much as I don't like the escalation, I feel like, yes, this is how war should be fought. Aim for the leaders. Stop making people underneath the leaders aim at each other. Look, if we get involved in this conflict, this war, I would be happiest if Putin and Biden just aim at each other, right? Just try to get through the castle defenses. We don't need to send hundreds of thousands, hundreds, millions, whatever, of people to go fight for land grabs. I hate it. Absolutely hate the idea of war.
Me too.
And I would just rather the Kings just have a slap fight. If you guys haven't watched slap fights yet, where they just turn their trinket until one drops, it's hilarious. It's violent. But Christy, go.
Okay, on this, my camera's falling there. On this Russian thing, you're 100% right. I wish it was, you want to fight with this guy? You guys go have at it. Leave all the citizens out of it. I love that. Now, everyone who's been following this crisis knows that the Wagner Group is a group of private mercenaries that were hired by Putin to go in and fuck shit up. The leader, you can go on YouTube today and watch a plethora of videos of him showing his dead soldiers everywhere, screaming at Putin's regime that he is going to walk away with all his soldiers if he doesn't get ammunition, food, and all the stuff that he's been promised. That almost all his soldiers are dead today and yesterday. I cannot keep up with how fast they're coming in. So caveat to what you saw over the Kremlin happen to Putin's most like badass mercenaries. No. The leader is showing all his dead soldiers, saying on camera, no, show them, show all of them, show what they look like, because this is what's happening to our men. Because this motherfucker, like screaming at the camera, we are owed 70% more ammunition. It never came. We're out here in the meat grinder with nothing. Like, it is serious. So I have no love for mercenaries. I don't. Call it whatever you want. However, I have love for humans. Take the mercenary off of it. Those are all someone's son, someone's brother, someone's grandson, someone's lover, someone's husband. It's fucking heartbreaking. And to see this hired killer whose job is to train hired killers to send them out, begging if he doesn't get it, he's leaving, is a pivot in this crisis, if I don't say so myself. And I'm not a war specialist. I'm a history junkie. I've never seen anything like that.
But again, we're humans. We're bound to just want the least amount of bloodshed, right?
Yes.
And I mean, it shouldn't have to be at like any cost to win these wars.
No.
Like, just be
any
the
means necessary. The only time any means necessary is appropriate is in the fights for civil rights. I am with Malcolm X 100% when he said what he said, when at any means necessary. At that time, it had been over 100 years since our Constitution guaranteed the right of him and people like him to vote, and they still couldn't. I get it. I feel that. The children here in Florida who are going to Ron DeSantis that got arrested this week, just 2 days ago, they would not leave his office. That's by any means necessary. Any means necessary does not mean violence. Anti-violence all the way. Any means necessary means up to that line, anything we can do. And I'm with you on that, with the Russian Ukraine too.
Yeah, no. So here's my further thinking on this, with your civil rights caveat, and also the other thing I wanted to say along with this, which I feel like it blends with civil rights. When you look at war and what happens to civilians during war, like the cities in Ukraine, I feel like then ought to be the point where we jump in, right? Like when another country starts attacking the civilians, right? I mean, like I really wish it was just and it sounds naive because we usually look at it as naive, right? Just go for the leaders, go for the military generals, the one who are actively volunteering to fight, the ones who are picking the fights. Just sabotage and strike them. But when you go attack a city, then your neighbors should start attacking your house. Right? Like I feel like that's when we probably should have gotten more involved. Is when he started shooting civilians. And I think that's just kind of what I'm shifting to, because I just
Interlake 204, we're going to use that name on here. He did make, how much of it is propaganda? That is a thought that went through my mind the first 5 or 6 videos that I saw from Wagner Group. However, those dead bodies on the ground could be propaganda in a lot of situations. This particular situation, I do not feel I'm being propagandized, and he is begging for ammunition. Nothing else. Ammunition. And he is on Putin's side. He's making Putin look like shit.
Yeah.
If it is propaganda, and he could get pushed off a building, like, or poisoned. I just don't feel like this particular angle is propaganda. Not saying that Wagner Group isn't full of shit on so many other facets, I think once you go in with 5,000, let's just make a number, 5,000 soldiers, and now you have 1,200, and out of those 1,200, 500 of them are laying dead in front of you. Like, that's not the numbers from the video. I'm just saying, at that point, you have to say, maybe we should get out. Or I would have lost a person and been like, this is not for us. But that's why I don't have a mercenary group. So there's that. But yes, that is a good point. With everything in war, in media, always ask yourself, what part of this is propaganda? Always. And that might sound cynical, but we've been lied to for so long. I've fallen for it so many times. It is very important. Thank you for bringing that up, because we should always ask that. And until we have multiple sources, we should assume that we don't know the truth on the situation, unfortunately.
Just to add on to that, what's his name? Interlake 204. Because that is such a great question. And it instantly makes me think of one of my favorite quotes from Abby Martin, is all art is propaganda. All news not. All
yes.
news not.
Yes. Well, if you look at I'm a history junkie. If you look at the history of the word propaganda, it started off not bad or good. It just meant, come listen to what we have to say about this. It was propaganda for leftists, propaganda for unions, propaganda for this. It became like someone is always going to ruin it for everyone. It's just, this is why we can't have nice things. And that's what happened. And propaganda is now used as you're being sold
Right. A good way to look at that for news and information is always, including this show, absolutely, very much positively.
Yes.
There's a bias.
Oh, yeah. We're just honest about our bias.
Atheist bias.
Yes. Right? We're just honest about our bias here.
Right. Beware of those who are not honest about their biases. Right? Those are worse. When they don't tell you up front what their positions are, then you need to wonder how honest they're being with you.
Yes.
I like to think everyone's doing their best, but when someone's not being honest, when someone's withholding the truth of what they see reality is, then they're not actually being honest with you from the baseline, right? Again, Christy and I are leftists, humanists, atheists, and we cover philosophy, politics, economics, religion, so you know where we're coming from, right? We're trying to give you current events, and we're trying to give you our solutions and our thought process behind these current events, so you can make decisions on what you think on your own. But always look at news, information, art as propaganda, so you can look at it through a skeptical eye. Otherwise, you are just begging to be fooled, right? So sometimes you will find sources that you trust, but if something makes you go, don't just push it aside, just think about it longer, right? Anyone you trust could say something you don't agree with, and it doesn't mean that they're spouting a lie, but it might mean that you don't agree with it. It doesn't fit within your worldview. Maybe it means you need to change your worldview. Maybe it means that piece doesn't fit in your worldview. Just think. Always be skeptical.
Yes. Let's see. Many people do believe, Smitty, that any means necessary does include violence. You're correct on that. They are wholeheartedly incorrect. And I hit send since I'm just going to, I was posting this, I might as well just say it. And we'll be on the wrong side of history. Violence will be on the wrong side of history unless it is defensive. Period, full stop. There, you cannot push me further than that. That's so. If someone broke in and was, hurting, that violence to protect is not considered violence to me. I mean, it is violence by definition.
Right.
but any means necessary, non-violently. I do not come. I do not have black skin. I do not know what it's like to live the life of a black man or a black woman. I can empathize, I can read, I can learn, I can have solidarity, I can understand, and I can want to make things better. But when a cop gets behind me, I get scared. I'm a pothead, but I don't fear for my life. So any means necessary for Martin Luther King meant something different than it would mean to any means necessary for the white members of the Freedom Riders. They lived different existences. However, both of those white, black, Spanish, indigenous freedom riders, MLK, civil rights leaders, civil rights members, civil rights citizens of that time understood any means necessary, whatever we got to do up until violence. Anything, when you pass to violence, you lose. You lost. You're on the wrong side. And I hope that everyone understands that that is a core tenet of humanism. Like, you cannot go past that in humanism. Yes,
Right.
Mac.
Speaking purely now from someone who teaches self-defense.
Yes.
I like to teach.
I don't.
When you're speaking of self-defense, when I talk about self-defense to people, and a gun comes out, right? Or if you feel like you're threatened in any way, like your life is really threatened, then what you ought to do, I love this guy,
it's the caramel one.
What you ought to do is protect yourself, right? Especially if the going gets tough, right? If worse comes to worse, you ought to protect yourself by any means necessary. But that means you stop when you're not protecting yourself.
Right.
That's what it means. So once you get the upper hand, right? If you take a gun from someone, which is harder to do than it sounds, it's not like the movies. I mean, if you get your hands on a gun, it's actually quite easy to take a gun. But getting your hands on someone's gun, not easy to do. So that said, if you ever do turn the tide of a fight, a mugging, a gun or not, weapon, not whatever, when you become the aggressor, you are no longer practicing self-defense. And that's for two reasons. Because one, well, now you're the aggressor, right? That's obvious. Everyone knows that. But the way that I try to teach my students is that also you are now working against your own defense. It's not self-defense anymore. You are harming yourself. Because now that you know you are the aggressor in the eyes of the law, you again are only harming yourself. Like Christy said, as soon as protesters turn to violence, they start to hurt their own case. They're harming themselves. And I think it's a really humble way to look at it and a really helpful way to look at it, because sometimes just knowing that you're the aggressor doesn't click in your head.
Oh, that was good. I can actually give a very contemporary example. New York, subway, the guy who just got killed, an ex-Marine. Oh, Mac, I will send you the link. A homeless man who has a long history of doing amazing things like impressions of Michael Jackson to make money. Also has a history with getting arrested for not paying for getting on the subway, for physically and violently attacking others, for trying to take a 7-year-old little girl. He has a history of health issues on record. He was on the subway a couple days ago. He was pretty violent in his verbiage, not his actions. He was hungry, he was starving, he was being really loud. He didn't care if he went to jail for life because the healthcare obviously was going to be better in there. He didn't even care if he died. He was screaming these things, and an ex-Marine comes up from behind him, puts him in a chokehold for 15 minutes and kills him. All on video. I don't care what he did, what his record is. That particular guy has no clue what this guy's record is unless he actually spent time researching him before he killed him. However, if you are ex-military, you have to know, if you're an adult, you have to know that by holding someone in a chokehold, that the brain after so many minutes stops getting oxygen and blood. After so many minutes more, dies. 15 minutes is, I don't know, 12 to 15 minutes too long. He's dead now. That is exactly what you're talking about. He wasn't threatening anyone physically. Maybe it could have gone there. He has before. That particular guy didn't know. Not only did he hold him in a chokehold for 15 minutes, but 2 other passengers came and held him down while that happened. There is a point where you have the upper hand and nobody had to die. I hate seeing stuff like this. It has been all over the news all day today and yesterday, and heartbreaking. AOC's come out. I don't agree with her 100%. On the other side, saying they just let him go until there was an uproar in the city of what? However, I do pay attention to our country and to the world, and people in New York City proper are fucking over the violence. They're over the crime. They're fucking over it. They want something to be done. Unfortunately, because of the way people feel in that society, in that, you know, microcosm of people right there, it could not go in the way that it should. And that's a bigger story. You know, people are so mad because they're terrified. They're terrified that unhoused humans have been violent, are violent in their life, the way they see it every day. And I'm not taking that away from them. I'm not saying that's not true in their life. They're scared of them. I think that as a society, that unhoused person having a health crisis as a wealthy person is horrible. Having a health crisis as a middle-class person is horrible. Having a health crisis with no insurance is life-threatening and just unacceptable. Houseless with nothing, and cherry on top, when he was 14 years old, his mother died. How? Strangulation. I just, you know, we gotta end it. We gotta end it. And I'm not saying that the person who did this ex-Marine, should go to prison for murder at all. However, it is manslaughter by definition. And maybe he doesn't have to serve time. Maybe he has to learn and can actually pass on that knowledge to other people. We've got to, as a community, as a society, think, what can we get better from this horrible situation? What can we learn from it? And this man who did this doesn't have to have his life ruined. Now, we can go into his history, and there's going to be things that, as a humanist, as a leftist, you are just like, that is unacceptable. That doesn't mean that he is not worth saving. That doesn't mean that he is not a beautiful human and doesn't have options to do amazing things in the future. I know people who have spent 20 years in prison. It doesn't mean that they should still have to, you know, live like that. They served their time. So there's hope. Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to correct you and say, now it does mean that. That person's dead.
Oh, Smitty, how is choking someone for 15 minutes only manslaughter? You are correct. My immediate feeling was not that at all. I've had to it's hard, constantly remind myself to put myself over here and look into it. I'm not a lawyer. but these are the parameters of the law that will be looked at it, and I have to only go by that. My feelings are, fuck that guy. Like, you came up from behind him having a crisis and killed him. Those are my human feelings. Law doesn't work like that. And for him to just be let go is what happened until the area was just like not gonna do, they were not having it. I'm curious to see how this plays out. I am, not because I'm happy about what happened. I'm really scared that the right thing's not going to happen, because how New York City proper citizens are so over the crime. And most of them are on the left. And it just blinds you when you're scared to do anything, raise your family, go outside, do all these things. Not that it hasn't been getting better. It has. This is not acceptable. And this is not the first murder on the subway by any means. And there was tons of witnesses, and the subways all got fitted with cameras. So we have the entire thing from second to second of his death. You're right. Oh, Dick Dawson, you guys, everybody say hi. I'm so glad you came by. That is amazing. I hope to see you again, and we will talk soon, I promise. I'm sure we have lots of cool stuff to catch up on. Oh.
All right, Nacha, go ahead and bring us to our last topic. We'll get this done in 5 minutes or less. We can do it.
Real quick, before I forget, to everyone who is not going to be checking out the chat, watching this later, please check out, if you care about Florida, if you care about education, freedomtolearn.net. That's freedomtolearn.net. And check it out and help us fix education. Even just your opinion there is going to help.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, 2024 presidential run. So far, who we have in the field. I'm not going to go through everyone. I'm going to go through everyone who kind of, sort of matters. All right, so on the Republican side, we obviously have Donald J. Trump. We also obviously have Ron DeSantis, who isn't actually running, he's just gunning. We also have Nikki Haley, who's dummy. And we have, don't we have Mike Pompeo?
Yes. Running against
Yeah. He's a serious worry, but I don't think he's a serious threat.
Not a candidate that could. He's like at 0.1%.
Yeah, that's where he should go home. Stay there, please. On the Republican side, it's almost it. Everyone else doesn't really matter, though. There was someone else. I can't remember what their name is. It starts with an O or an A. I don't remember if they're on the Republican side. It's one of the, like, 3 or 4 syllable names. Dude, I don't remember who it is. But on the Democratic side, we have Robert Kennedy Jr. We have Marianne Williamson.
Yes.
And we have, finally, the man himself, Joe Biden, threw his hat in the race. Can you believe it? I can, but I don't want to. So we have those 3. Is that all that we have on the Democratic side right now? Or am I missing that one person with a 3 or 4 syllable last name? Okay. I'm doing this for them.
I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Important bits. Okay. Nikki Haley's not going to get it.
No.
She's done. I'm calling it. Mike Pompeo.
Sorry.
Yeah. He's not going to win, but he could be in an administration again because he's the right kind of dirtbag for the Republican side. So keep an eye on what he's doing, but don't worry about him being in the race.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis. Trump's pulling up the elite again.
Yes, and remember, Ron cannot legally run for president in the state of Florida unless he resigns as governor or gets voted out in an election. Unless his lawyers can carve out the law to allow him to do that. So most people don't know that because they do not talk about it. And when people say we want Trump and then DeSantis, when Trump is president and DeSantis is vice president, in the United States of America, the president and vice president cannot come from the same state, period. And where does Trump reside right now? Right.
So, all of that said, Christy is usually, if not always, right. Half of that doesn't have to matter because standing laws and traditions don't matter in Florida, except only tradition matters in Florida, and no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. So there's all the caveats you needed there.
So good.
Thank you. On the Democratic side, we have Robert Kennedy. I'm thoroughly excited to see what his run's gonna look like.
How is he Democratic? Like,
I mean, he's basically a moderate.
He doesn't understand science at all. He's anti-vaxxer. He's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I do not understand how he's related to JFK. I just do not get it.
It's quite different. I would probably, like, if, again, in this political compass, I would say he's probably some kind of right-wing moderate. I mean, Joe Biden's on the right wing. Let's be honest.
100%. Yes. Conservative.
Political compass, anyways. As far as our American political compass goes,
yeah, the Overton window done broke and moved only to the right side of the house.
Right, but he's just like, he's pretty much slapped down, like right in the middle, maybe a little bit to the right.
Actually, a comedian described him perfectly. I can't remember the comedian's name. He said, if ChatGPT, if you could type in a Democratic Trump.
Oh no!
In policies only, not like in charisma or anything. And it would be him.
So you know what's interesting? I've actually only checked him out like on paper. I haven't actually seen him talk or anything.
Woo, son!
You need to check that. And then of course, we have Marianne Williamson.
Yes,
absolutely fabulous.
That's who, as of right now. That's my number one.
Yeah,
as of right now.
How could it not be? How could it not be? She's for Medicare for all.
Yes.
Kyle and Crystal on their show, Crystal and Kyle, I mixed those up. They asked her that question again, like, what's your number one? And she's like, I know I just said Medicare for all, but, and you see Kyle's face go, but good one.
Yes.
She said money in politics, which is
that's my thing.
Absolutely reasonable as it can get. I'm like, cool, that's a great answer. I like you more and more each day. Last run, I was just like, she sounds nice, but I don't trust it. This time around, it looks like she's really done her homework. She's planting herself firmly.
Right. She's actually done her homework. That's so important. And you know what? Really, like, even if I wasn't convinced on her, not that I'm a contrarian, I'm not. I think contrarianism is fucking ignorant. However, every human has that, oh yeah, I can't do that. Watch this. Everyone has. And when the president of these United States' own website put in writing that they have no reason to debate, they're not practicing, they're not getting ready, they have no reason to, because their words, there are no serious candidates. I wanted to throw this computer through a wall. Like, I just, Mr. I'm for democracy, vote for me.
Anti-democratic.
No democracy for anyone else.
Okay, so
Oh,
I'm going, before Nacho starts asking us to wrap
yes.
it up, we
Yes.
are around that time.
We got to put a bow on it soon.
Yeah, we are going to put a bow on it, and this is the bow. All right.
Okay.
Bow
Bow myself.
I'm going to say it. We need to start a hashtag. We need to start a movement, with or without everybody's help, of Biden must debate.
Ooh, yes, done.
Biden must debate, because it doesn't matter. Like, if it's Biden in office, it doesn't matter if it's fucking Bernie in office. The Democratic
Right, it's in the name.
to debate. They should force every candidate to debate who's polling over, I don't know, 5%. We'll say 5. The recent earmark was 2%.
I like that.
Yeah. And Bobbert Kennedy, I'm going to call him Bobbert, thank you. They're both pulling double digits, over 10%. They should absolutely be in a debate.
Yes.
Absolutely. And we just need to make that a hashtag on every single one of our videos from now until the election. And hopefully it just takes off. So start a trend on Twitter. Start it now. We'll keep it up. Biden must.
Yes, he must. He must. It's not an option. I was so disgusted when I heard that. You're the authoritarianism of the other side, the anti-democracy, anti-democratic of the other side. They can't even call us the Democratic member. They say the Democrat member. We've gone so hard on the other side about anti-democracy. However, we're not going to debate is not acceptable. I don't ever want to see you with president before your name again, just you having that thought. Unless he comes out and says that wasn't me, that was my whatever, whether it's a lie or not. That's the only way you're going to get me to even take you seriously, because you don't want to debate. Why? Because you can't hold your own, because Marianne is stronger than you on policy. I don't care what it is. A debate is going to take whoever the front leader is and pull them to the left. That is the importance of debates. That is the political reason of having them. And to not have a debate is some pussy ass bullshit, Biden. You need to get it together. And if you can't, that's okay. Go enjoy being a grandpa. Eat your vanilla chocolate chip ice cream. Ride your bike. Cool. You actually didn't do much harm. Not any president in my lifetime can say that. Bow out and get behind someone who can. It's so frustrating. Marianne Williamson, I am, as of right now, you could, LEAH, I guess, that's what we're going for. And yes, I'm wearing a dress, committee. So sometimes I'm a girl, okay. I am a girl sometimes. Yes. And I mean, maybe she will let us down. Maybe I will change my mind. But if it's her and Biden, I cannot even imagine her doing or saying something that would make me change my
mind. I can't imagine the smack.
I'm ABB, anything but Biden.
Not Biden, yeah.
Unless it's Trump, then yeah. Obviously, unfortunately, I'd have to. Don't make me do that, Merca. Fuck yeah, don't make me do that.
I would love if Biden brought his dark Biden. Or we're just going to have to make him eat that pussy ass Biden.
Yeah.
He's just going to have to do that. All right, guys, we love you. We are going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Friday night. We will see you in another fortnight. And
stay humanist, for godless sakes. Mwah! Done good,